We're the most honest band on the planet. We're not pop stars, we're lads, right? We're in a band, we're into football, we're into taking drugs and meeting women and all the rest of it, right? And we won't deny anything that's been written about us. Why should we? They want to write about it, fine. Our music will stand the test of time. That is a fact, right? All this media hype and all this thing about us being this, that and the other, right, will be dead in a year's time. Everyone will forget about it. The records that we make will be in the shops forever. And it's as simple as that. And on that part, I'll be part. Next thing that's good.
Hoorah!
Hoorah!
There's very few debut albums that can match it, I think, in terms of sheer song-by-song quality.
It had an impact that was nuclear.
Stayed in a massive his band out of Britain in the last fucking 30 years.
It seemed to go from sort of nothing to just bang, you know, like a real explosion.
I just fuck the rest of them. I just wanted to be in the best band in the world.
A lot of people said to me, oh, when was the first time you realised that Oasis were really going to be fantastic? They did a first ever radio session which was on mono radio, on, I think it was the old Radio 5 was broadcast on AM, and they did Rock and Roll Star on that. That was like in July '93. And I was in London, they were in Manchester doing it, and I managed to get home in time to listen to it on the radio. And it was then, you know, when I heard that just coming out in mono from a radio, and it absolutely ripped my head off.
My dreams are real. Now you're concerned about the way I feel. Says I'm a rock and roll star.
In the 80s, in the early 80s and the mid 80s, which I'm from and Noel's from, you were considered very strange if you went to see guitar bands. At that point, it was a little cult on the side.
I can't even remember what was in the charts, but I just remember it being crap, whatever it was.
We'd had years of shoegazing bands. We'd had lots of bands who'd come on almost in the dark.
The shoegazing thing.
Shoegazing.
Shoegazers.
No attitude and no presence really on stage. And then suddenly, here were these lads from Manchester.
It was just like a breath of fresh air when Oasis turned up, and it were an actual band that were actually, you know, had tunes and were playing, and it were like it was, kids just went, oh, thank God for that, you know, a band.
Oasis were just the antithesis of every guitar rock band at the time, because they wanted success, they weren't afraid of fame.
The thing I got off of Noel was that he truly wanted to be absolutely massive, right? And which kind of shocked me a little bit, because it was like, you definitely didn't get that in 1993 of the musicians.
They raised the stakes in terms of what bands were going to have to do, in terms of their compositional ability and also their desire to, as they would say, have it.
We hadn't sort of had a band, you know, who kind of sort of walked it like they talked it, really. And I think that was so refreshing. You know, a kind of working class band who, you know, there was no kind of sort of bullshit about them, and, you know, they weren't going to sort of kiss anybody's arse, really. They were going to do it the way they wanted to do it.
It was a great statement of intent. We're having it, and we're going to make you have it.
Wanted to be a singer. I was pissed off with the bands around Manchester, you know, people were taking for fucking years to write a record, you know what I mean, and I was a fan of bands, and they were just like, you know, it's like, make a fucking record, this is fucking boring, you know what I mean. Then I thought, fuck it, I'll start a band myself.
First time I met Liam, I was living with my wife in a place called Fallowfield in Manchester, and somebody said, you know, Liam Gallagher's interested, he wants to join a band and he can sing and whatnot. And we're like, okay, I had something on tape, it was just me on acoustic guitar. And there was some bongos, I think, just a bit of percussion behind it. And he started singing along. I think it was called She Always Comes Up Smiling. Nothing like he is now, or nothing like he was sort of a couple of years ago. He was really hitting the high notes. And my wife's comment was, he sounded amazing, put it that way. But my wife's comment was, I said, what do you think? Could you hear him? She goes, yeah, he sounds like a nightingale.
Met Bonehead and they were in a band. Man, they weren't that good, but I thought, you know, at least they're in a fucking band. I had respect for them because they were doing it. And then they got rid of their singer, they asked if I wanted to join, so I went, yeah, I've had a bit of that, let's change the name, let's go for it. And then thinking back, I thought, right, Noel will probably join if I join, and he's got the songs.
As far as I was concerned, we were a great rhythm section, raw, meaty sort of thing, and Noel with his songs and his melodies just brought it all together, really.
They were all writing the tunes. He was writing very introspective lyrics at the time.
Right, like what?
About his well, let's just say one of his songs were called "Life in Vain" and leave it at that.
Yeah, they were fucking shit, man. But you know, at least it got off my arse. You know what I mean? And I just thought, a bit of practice and you'd be all right. We've been all right. We'd be a decent little band.
I mean, we loved it. Me, Liam, Griggs. I remember we were just like, that's the best thing ever, you know. Nothing special, nothing great. We weren't going to break the world, but to us at the time, it was like, well, yeah, we're in a band. We're making music. It's our music.
Get on this. There was one song which was him and Bonehead used to sing it, and Bonehead used to play acoustic guitar, and he used to sing it, and it was just have a guess what it was called? Acoustic. Eh? Fucking The Vision.
At the time that Liam, you know, was in the band, Noel wanted to be a part of that, and there's no way he'd have been left out, you know. So at that time, he was, you know, he was very aware that there was something that he had to do, you know, and that's what it was, to get in that band and, you know, take it over.
You know, if it wasn't for Liam, I wouldn't be in the band. Me and him were making pretty fucking good money for the time, roadieing, you know, setting up amplifiers for people. Not having to do any interviews, didn't have to have my photograph taken, didn't have to be any fucking where before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Nobody knew where I was. No was taking any pictures of me, could do as much fucking drugs as I could possibly consume and get fucking paid for it. And all you had to do was switch a couple of fucking amps on every night. That was great. Then that went and spoilt it. I've fucking never forgiven him for that. We had a fucking good life, man, before all this bullshit,
travel the
didn't we,
world
man?
for nothing.
You know what I mean? He called up my flat and said, come on, you fucking miserable come and have a jam with us. I was like, I don't want to, it's Sunday. Got to go to church.
So he come along and he had the songs which we needed because we needed
Great
a
guy, innit?
songwriter.
I mean, it's like, I owe my career to this man.
And then when Noel joined and he had these songs, I thought, right, that's it. We're going to fucking change the world.
And we just jam about with acoustic guitars, and Noel just had, like, sort of coming out of me. It's just like, oh, here's another one. We're like, who's that by? He's like, well, me, you know, it's just stuff I've been writing. So we used to jam with acoustic guitars in his room there, Liam singing. And then it evolved to, well, let's get in a big room. We found this place, the Red House. We'll go in the room, we'll just jam about, you know, with drums, bass, 2 guitars and a vocal. I think the first few rehearsals were literally that, just sort of jamming around ideas Noel had.
We practiced 7 days a week. You know what I mean? When everyone else was necking knees and going out dancing to fucking Dalek music in the Hacienda, I was downstairs and trying to make a band.
Doesn't matter who's playing who on football that night or what's happening Friday night in that club, you're going to be down the boardwalk. That was the discipline we had. We're going to do it every night.
So I was just basically just getting right into it. I just loved it, you know. I wanted to be in the band, and you know, I'd have been in that band myself. You know, they were just fantastic. In that room, they were awesomely loud. Noel was ridiculously loud. So, you know, I'd just generally record, you know, the whole band, and, you know, we'd have it on cassette and we could listen to it and just, you know, just use it as reference.
You'd walk out of the rehearsal room, there'd be guys in another band in the room next door, and they'd just go, what was that you were playing next door? You know, before, and we were like, one of an old songs, you know, it's us. Who are you? And we're like, well, it's Oasis. And they were just like, oh, that's amazing. They were getting that feeling. We were getting an even bigger feeling inside. It's like, well, we could do something with this.
band always knew the moment Noel came in and said, look, I'm going to take over your band, but I've got these songs, and they went, fair play to you, you know, can't write songs like that.
I remember one day coming in and just started this song, it was Live Forever, and it was just like, where'd you get that then? It was like, wrote it ages ago, mate. And it's so, my memories are just Noel coming out of this stuff and it's just blowing me. It's just like, you know, you've been writing them all these years. It's like, well, yeah, of course they have.
They started doing gigs. Then I put myself, you know, right in the position of mixing them live, because that's what I wanted to do, you know.
The concerts they played, they were only like 4th on the bill in the Boardwalk, and they only used to play them because they hadn't paid the rent for the rehearsal rooms underneath, so they used to get stuck on with loads of crap bands.
I had to go and see Oasis because every time I had the opportunity I had to go and see Oasis, because they didn't have any records out at that point, and these songs were just so crazily addictive that you had to hear them.
It was mind-blowing. I think at the time I said about it that it was like everything and nothing I'd ever heard before.
I mean, it was guitars cranked up on 10. It was like just me, big chords just powering through. Dead simple bass lines, you know, just stick to it, have it, no frills, and Noel over the top doing his leads. I mean, that, and cranked right up, you know.
Just go on, blast it out, stand there, no movement, and then just get off, no encores or anything.
The fact that none of them moved was what struck me about them when I saw them live. I thought that was brilliant. I think the best bands don't have to do anything. They can if they want to, but they don't have to. And Oasis had that completely indestructible aura of confidence about them.
You had to have that attitude to play those songs. Otherwise it just wouldn't have been believable. You know, I think one goes with the other.
What came out of the speakers in the gigs was only what was coming off the stage. You know, what I wasn't doing, I don't think any, you know, sound engineer really does. I mean, you know, you can embellish what is going on the stage, but if it's not good on the stage, it's not good anyway. You know, what they played every night was just fantastic anyway, and the gigs were awesome. Everyone, you know, were awesome. They were loud, and they, you know, it was a vicious delivery. It was fantastic.
Very loud. It just got louder and louder until we eventually had to, it just, well, too loud.
So through the rest of '93, we didn't sweat on going into the studio to make an album. Instead, the band toured around Britain. You know, they were 3rd on the bill on a lot of, you know, to like the BMX Bandits or something, and they just did what they had to do.
I wasn't working. Liam was on the dole. Noel was sort of in between, sort of grafting with bands and whatever. Griggs was working for British Telecom, you know, in an office 59 floors up in the centre of Manchester in a suit. And all of a sudden someone goes, here's your minibus, here's your itinerary, you're staying in a bed and breakfast. Like, staying in a bed and breakfast, you'll never stayed anywhere like that in your life. And it's like, and here's 30 quid float. Go and have it.
They were gigging that much, they were working, and the thing is about Oasis, if they weren't recording, if they weren't at my house or in some studio or rehearsing, they were out gigging, so they were hot anyway. You know, they were well rehearsed, well drilled, they all knew what they were doing anyway.
From releasing the Columbia EP in January through to the end of the year, they played